I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, September the 20th. That was my dad's birthday. He's been gone for 13 years, but September 20th always sticks in my mind. Brought to you in part by Night Latch Group. Whether you retain ownership on one pen per year or you feed thousands of them, livestock gross margin policies can be tailored to fit your operation. Hold on to your investment. For more information, go to nightlatch.net. Salebarns off the beaten path. And I've told you many times that in the heat of the summer, around the 4th of July and going into July, most sale barn owners wish they didn't have a sale barn. It usually costs more to open them up than the business they get to pay their employees and the expenses, and they can't go anywhere on vacation, and it just kind of sucks having a sale barn in the dead summer. But in the fall, that's when you're proud of your sale barn. You're glad you got one, and you've got sale barns all over the country. It's fantastic. We've got price discovery on all classes of feeder cattle and calves and slaughter cows and things that come to the sale barn plentiful. And it's a great way to find price discovery there, and it's a wonderful thing. We don't have that in the fat cattle arena. I preach about that all the time. It's not getting any better, it's getting worse. But in the fall of the year, you have a lot of producers that market cattle, especially calves, and you have some of them still having some yearlings. But these regional sale barns scattered out all over the country, they've got their good customers, and they feature their cattle usually in the fall of the year more than any other time. And so we see these regional markets, and sometimes just small sale barns, but especially your regional markets that cover a big area, they're having pretty good runs, and they've got really good cattle, and the cattle bring a big price. And I'm going to tell you about several of them at the end of this report, like I always do when I feature a big feeder cattle markets. But I love to see that. I love to call out sale barns that I've never talked about before, sale barns I've never been to before, but I get information out of them. And like I said, I just think it's a great way to find price discovery, and I wish we had it in our fat cattle arena, but we don't. There's no telling what this market would be if we had some type of price discovery on fat cattle. But the board is still catching its breath. It was down on Monday and then down again on Tuesday, but the feeder cattle were not so sharply down. They were still down pretty tough, but not nearly as bad as they were on Monday. We got the cattle on feed estimates from the analysts that normally predict what they think it's going to be. Of course, it comes out, it looks pretty bullish right now. Of course, you don't know what it's going to look like on Friday at 2 o'clock Central when the information comes in. You gotta remember that all these percentages are a percentage of last year's total. So it is lighter on everything, but we just kind of have to pucker up and wait like we do every month, and I think it's ridiculous why we have to wait for them to pull the sheet back on this information before they'll give it to us. But USDA, National Ag Statistics Service, will come out with this information at 2 o'clock on Friday. Your average of the analyst guess for on-feed totals for September the 1st, 97.6% of a year ago. Well, you would figure they'd be lighter. Your August placements, we had them down big last month. For August placements, they have pegged those, or the average of the analyst guess is 93.6. I thought it might be down in the 80s, but 93.6. And you think, well, gosh, it was super hot in August, and there was a couple weeks there that the auctions didn't even have any cattle running because it was so hot, and you couldn't do anything. Well, it gets hot every year in August. It was hot last August. So I don't disagree with the guesses from the average of the analyst guess. I think it was kind of what I would have been thinking, somewhere close, because it's in comparison to last year. Marketing's actually surprised me a little bit. Of course, it shouldn't have. If I'd have thought about it, your harvest has been down big, so your marketings would be down big also, and marketings are pegged at 94.4%. But stay tuned on Friday to see what goes on there. I want to call out a market that I learned more about here early this week, and sometimes I've been criticized because I don't talk enough about the Texas markets, and not necessarily the little dribble of negotiated fed cattle sales. I talk about those all the time in the Texas Panhandle, but I'm talking about your calf and yearling and feeder sales all over the state of Texas. Texas is the biggest cattle state. How come I'm not giving more quotes on Texas cattle? Well, that's one reason I started giving you what you would get cattle ordered from Ellis and Carter Cattle Company for, is because it kind of helped give a Texas market there in a way. But so many of the auctions in Texas are in central Texas and going out from there in each direction. A lot of them sell one at a time or very small groups because there's small producers there. And as urban sprawl continues, you just have people that don't have enough ground to have enough cows to raise enough calves to make big bunches. And so you just don't see that many big bunches selling. Most of your sale barns, frankly, sell one at a time. Most of them handwrite tickets, so I can't get their information on our National BeefWire TV. I can't get them on Cattle Market Central, but they are starting to have more of these progressive type auctions in Texas, and they are starting to market cattle in bigger groups. And I've told you guys before, I think they've done studies on that. What makes the biggest difference on the price of your feeder cattle? And you think, oh, they all got to be black. Nope, that was not it. They all got to be weaned, they all got to have shots. Those weren't it either. The thing that makes the biggest difference when you're marketing your cattle is lot size. So if you're selling cattle in load lots, they're going to bring significantly more money than they are if it's a piece of a load. They'll still sell different. If it's just a little jag, not quite as good, you're selling them one at a time. That's the worst. And so, and I tell people that all the time. But unless you do all the work to the cattle, you can't commingle them and make bigger bunches out of them. Well, Joe Don Pogue, past world champion livestock auctioneer, master marketer in Texas, he owns Sulphur Springs Livestock. And 25 years ago, they started a group called Net Bio. And I saw Net Bio and I thought maybe it was some kind of a pharmaceutical deal that I wasn't going to understand or something really complicated. No, it's not. Net Bio stands for Northeast Texas Beef Improvement Operation. Pretty simple. And what did they start doing 25 years ago? He started telling his producers about the advantages of selling cattle in bigger groups. And he has these sales monthly whenever cattle are moving, and then he might take a month or so off when cattle are not moving. But in November, coming up, the November sale will be the 25th anniversary of the Net Bio sales at Sulphur Springs. And I think that's really something to be proud of, and they'll have a celebration there. But talked to Joe Don, and he gave me some information out of his last Net Bio sale, which was Friday, this past Friday. And they had 4,900 head of cattle at the sale. Wow. He's got a good sized place there. He's got a lot of traps that he can put those cattle in. They bring the cattle in, and it doesn't cost the producers any more. It's kind of like Joplin Regional Stockyards. If you want to bring your cattle in on Sunday for the Monday sale in Joplin, you just bring them in, and it doesn't cost you any more. It's the same commission rate as if you bring them in that morning and you don't choose to commingle them. But that's the same thing they do at the Net Bio sales. Now, it might end up costing you a little bit more because you need to bring them in a couple of days before, so you're going to have some feed and yardage charges there, but that is minimal compared to how much more the cattle bring. 4,900 head. Now, this is the same one of these sales that would just sell a few hundred if he wasn't doing this. And there's some other sales. I've talked about Navasota, and I've talked about the Jordan cattle auctions that feature these wean sales. But to be in the net bio sale, your calves have to be weaned not 30 days, not 45 days, but 60 days. They've got to be 60 days weans. They got to have 2 rounds on them, and they got to have third-party verification of that. And they'll have an ear tag that shows that they have been through that process. So they bring the cattle in, they weigh them individually, they sort them. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. I mean, those guys that work at Sulphur Springs, they work their butts off there for about 4 days for one of these net bio sales. But they weigh them just as fast as they can, one at a time, and they put them out, they sort them up, put them in like bunches, and make some really nice groups of cattle. And then whenever they get ready to sell them, they bring a sampling in. They put a nice little sample in the ring, maybe 10, 12, 15 head or whatever, and that is a sampling of what's out there in that trap for that particular lot. And then whenever they sell them, they put all that weight together and shrink them 2%, which is fair for the buyer. But they've been getting along just gangbusters. He's already got over 5,000 head consigned for the next net bio sale. But you know, you guys have to get the work done, but you need to be thinking about that if you're living in that part of the country and you want to get top billing for your cattle. And you don't have to have the best ones that walk to do it. Of course, you're going to have some crossbred cattle. You're going to have got to have some plainer cattle in that part of the state, of course. But they've got good cattle too, and I want to tell you about 53 head of black and black baldy steers that sold this last Friday at the net bio sale. The steers weighed 519 pounds. Of course, they were 60 days weaned, had 2 rounds of shots, and they all fit together. They bring 310.50. You can't get anywhere close to that if you're not selling in that type of a sale. The similar group of heifers, there was 52 of them, blacks and black baldies, weighed 517. Heifers bring 284. Now, that's the way you squeeze all you can out of those cattle as far as what they're worth on the market. But you got to do the work, guys. But if you're interested in that, get a hold of them at Sulphur Springs. They can give you some more information about that. Tell them you're interested in the net bio sale. And I think it's a really good deal, and I think more markets should be doing something like that to keep these producers in business, guys. I went to an event on Tuesday, the 2023 Beef Showcase at West Texas A&M University. That's my alma mater here. It's less than 5 miles from my house. My old classmate, Dr. Ty Lawrence, he's doing such a good job over there. Of course, he's got the best facilities in the world, doing such a good job with that meats department over there. This event was sponsored by Texas Cattle Feeders Association. So, needless to say, I'm not nearly as popular less than 5 miles from my house as I am like 500 miles from my house, but that's okay. I just tell the truth. But we had a lot of corporate feeders there. They had a lot of students there from Clarendon Community College. They had, of course, a lot of students from WT there. Had some young people, young students there that appeared to be from 4-H and FFA programs. But a good crowd. I mean, the biggest crowd I've ever seen at one of these type of events. And man, did Dr. Lawrence put something together for us. We watched the videos of finished cattle. Then we made guesses on ribeye area, back fat, and the yield grade and the quality grade and all that. And then we just got up and walked right down the hallway to a fantastic facility in the cooler where those carcasses were hanging. They were already ready for us. And we had to try to match up the carcasses with the videos that we'd already watched. It was an interesting exercise there. It was more difficult than what I thought it was. When I was with USDA, we had to do grading correlations all the time to stay certified to be a USDA livestock grader. but this was more in depth than that, and it was very good. And then we took a beefathon quiz, and that stuff I hadn't seen for 30 years and had forgot most of it. And so it was a very humbling experience to go through that exercise. And congratulations to the guys that did well in it. I did notice on the thing that I really saw that stuck out to me was they brought back what these cattle would be worth, both on the rail and after fabrication. Now the top one, of course, was the biggest, and you think, oh, you're going to get discounted like crazy. They had a big steer in there that weighed over a ton. Not just a little bit over a ton, quite a bit over a ton, like 2,020 or 30 pounds. I can't remember exactly what it weighed. But, you know, that big old steer brought back, after fabrication, over $4,100. So that reminds me of an old Bob Foote story. You guys remember the late great Bob Foote of Foote Cattle Company. He was a friend of mine, and we were at the Angus convention of all places, which normally you wouldn't see Bob Foote at something like that, but it was close to his house. I'm sure he had somebody to stop by and see, but he was walking through there, and somebody from the Angus Association says, well, hey Bob, you know, what kind of advice do you have for us? And in Bob Foote style, he kind of grumbled. He said, give me something I can hang 1,700 pounds on. And I thought that was great, but that was a Bob Foote story, and he's right. That's where the money's at. The bigger the better. That's why we continue to see these carcass weights get bigger all the time. You know, they can't fit the box, they'll get a bigger box. Or they'll use that knife and trim them up a little bit. But thought that was interesting. Also noticed there wasn't a whole lot of talk about marketing at that beef showcase. Really didn't talk about marketing at all. I was ready to raise my hand whenever they said about what percent of the fed cattle in the Texas Panhandle, Western Oklahoma, Eastern New Mexico region are sold in a negotiated banner. And I couldn't wait to raise my hand, and I could say 5%. But nobody really wanted to talk about that. They were just happy about the market, and most all of them were working for the big corporates, which that's all that's left up here in the Texas Panhandle. But let's talk about your board for Tuesday. October live cattle futures down 65 cents at 185.67. December was down 52 at 190.47. Your back months were all down just 20 cents on the farthest month out to as much as 85 cents. September feeder cattle down 75 cents at 253.50. October down $1.60 at 259.35. Your back months are all down 35 cents to 52 cents. New crop December corn up 4 3/4 cents a bushel at 476 1/4. New crop November beans down 1 1/4 cents at 1331 3/4. And your Kansas City hard red winter wheat futures on the Chicago Board of Trade for December down 4 cents at 731. Your fat cattle market, no trade confirmed on Tuesday. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Didn't have anything. I did hear strong rumors of some Northern Plains trade at 186, and that would have been to a regional, and that would have been on some pretty good cattle. So everybody was thinking higher again going into this week with the board fading a couple of days there, and then they had decent movement, albeit light on negotiated level. I would say that steady might be a victory this week, but you know, you had somebody sell cattle at 186, and you sure can't blame them there. Brick and mortar sale, Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. They had a big run, 2,100 head in overnight, 2,700 head for a total run. The conventional cattle sold $1 to $2 lower, from 181 to 184, and that's actually a little bit lower than what we're seeing in the country right now, because they gained a little bit last week. But they did have a stick out lot of conventional cattle, a big lot that bring 187.50, and that would be more than what they're getting out in the country. But Gary Marks that helps me with this information. He said he figured those conventional cattle were working off a 292 dressed bid there, and that would be right in line with what they were selling for in the country last week. Not any drug-free cattle there. They did have non-implanted cattle, program type cattle. They bring from 189 to 194.50. That's lower. That's more lower than the conventional cattle because we had them all the way up to nearly $2 last week. They did have a short load of non-implanted cattle that bring 196. And Gary said it looked like those cattle were costing $305 and a little more on a dress basis standing there in the ring. But quality was comparable. Majors were not as aggressive. It was very apparent of that, he said. Box beef cutout values were lower on Tuesday afternoon. Choice cuts down $3.20 at $302.12. Selects down $1.63 at $281.78. Your slaughter falling behind again. 248,000 through the first 2 days of the week. That's 4,000 less than last week, 5,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. MLS Tubs take pride in their line of products that are proven to lower your cost of feed supplements for your herd. They've got all kinds of tubs for all kinds of needs. For more information, go to mlstubs.com. Your September distributor spotlight is on Powell Feed and Milling Company in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. If you're in that part of the country, go by there and get your MLS tubs. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Tuesday, sitting at 252.86 based on an 800-pound cash steer. That's up 171 and now right in line again with your CME cash feeder cattle index. Don't forget, if you've made a lot of money on cattle this year, which I know a lot of you had, you're worried about a tax problem, don't worry. On DVAuction this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you can buy you a yearling quarter racing horse. And it's at Heritage Place in Oklahoma City. Not going to be able to be there because the rodeo at Tri-State Fair in Amarillo that my daughter won Queen for is this weekend also, so I bowed out of that. But don't miss the Heritage Place yearling quarter horse sale. That's racing quarter horses there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you can get Amber to approve you to bid, then you can sit right there at home or wherever you're at and bid on that sale. Talk about your markets, your big markets on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri had 3,500 head through the ring. Another 1,077 through their in-house video market that they have every week with help from DVAuction, and it's seamless for them. The guys have done such a great job with them. They barely even slow down to sell 1,000 head of video cattle there. But West Plains, your feeders through the ring were $3 to $4 higher. Your calves were $4 to $8 higher. Stick out sale through the ring was a set of really nice blacks, 52 head of them, weighed 722, bring 270 and a quarter. Now in your video sale, stick out sale there was Vance Taylor, and he's from Rosebud, Arkansas. Sold some commodity cattle, some commodity steers. They were crossbreds. Some of them were spotted up. They were uneven, fairly plain. You guys might not like them. I like commodity cattle. I'm willing to bet you he probably made more money off those cattle than some of the guys that have cattle that'll knock your eyes out. But you can see a sampling of his cattle there. There's 70 head of them, weighs 735 for immediate delivery in Arkansas. They bring 246. Not too bad, guys. How about your National BeefWire stick out sale of the day? Is a sale that I've never been to. I've heard of it, but never been to it and don't know anybody around there. But they had one hell of a sale at Bowman, North Dakota, at Bowman Livestock Marketing. It was their yearling barbecue special. You look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central. Look at your best tested weights. Of course, they were all yearlings because it was a yearling special. That about 3,500 head altogether. But look at these quotes. 563 head of 7-weight steers, Bowman, North Dakota. They averaged 767 at 264.03. 902 head of 8-weight steers averaged 846 with a weighted average price of 259.26, way up north. 256 head of 9-weight steers averaged 932 at 249.41. Look at some heifers. How about 449 head of 7-weight heifers at Bowman Livestock Marketing? They average 732 and bring 251.48. And 562 head of 8-weight heifers averaged 846 at 239.40. Several individual quotes from all around. Fredonia Livestock Auction, my buddy Brad Hahn sells 82 steers, weight 603 at 297. How about Kingsville Livestock Market, the Anstein family there, and my buddy Jimmy Long is an order buyer there from Coal Camp, Missouri. He gave me a heads up on these heifers. 110 head of 658-pound fancy black heifers bring 279.85 going to feed in Nebraska. How about Tri-State Livestock Exchange in Ray, Colorado? 85 little steer calves. They weigh 354 and bring 396. How about Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington? That's the flagship location there. They had a big sale with a lot of big yearlings. A lot of 8-weight yearlings. All put together, they had 547 head of 8-weight yearlings. They averaged 832 pounds with a weighted average price of $251.31. Wow. Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota. So they sold the Galen Losing steers, 236 head of them, weighed 923 and bring 260.50. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Mackerson No BS top quote for the day, come out of another market we hadn't talked about, Scotland County Livestock in Memphis, Missouri. That's extreme northeastern Missouri, right up there by where it comes together with Iowa and Illinois. They sold 62 steers, good black steers, weighed 732 for $290.25. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.